Hello and welcome to CEO Nights with me, Nyimpini Mabunda. This is a podcast where we get up close and personal with some of the most admired CEOs in South Africa. You, the viewer or listener, get to be a fly on the wall in a relaxed, informal, peer-to-peer conversation between two senior leaders. The guest CEOs get to share their life journeys, just like I did in my best-selling book, Take Charge, which inspired the podcast, as we continue the journey to grow the next generation of business leaders. Make sure you grab a copy and discover the story for yourself. Take Charge is now also available in an audio book. A special thank you to Nedbank, the presenting sponsor of CEO Nights with Nyimpini, as well as the associate sponsor, Evis Chauffeur Drive. A very warm welcome to you, the audience. Thanks for joining us. So let's talk about tonight, which I'm very, very excited about. I tend to theme the stories to the chapters in my book. And the theme of today's conversation is the deep end, getting into the deep end. Yeah? Quite often, we find ourselves being thrown in the deep end, having this kind of responsibilities that maybe feel a little bit too big, feel a little bit threatening, and you're like, why am I here? Can I do it? Can I survive? And those experiences grow us. But they're often quite scary at the time when you get them, because you kind of don't know whether you're going to swim or sink. So this is really what we want to talk about today. That's chapter 2 in my book, about surviving the deep end, because throughout our careers, we're going to have several situations like that. And who better to talk to us about this than someone who was, ladies and gentlemen, listen to this, a CEO of a listed company at the age of 29. I don't know how many years experience you have when you're 29, and now you have to deal with investor relations and then all of those kind of things. Talk about the deep end. I'm talking about someone who was one of the youngest board members of very large banks, very large organizations, and continue to be an influential and sought after board member, not just of listed organizations and privately owned, but also of not-for-profit, because she believes a lot in giving back. She believes a lot in impact. We're talking about someone who has not just made name for herself and been successful only in South Africa, but she's well known in Ghana, she's well known in Uganda, she's well known in Zambia. You can go on and on and on in DRC, because she's worked Pan-Africa.
My name is Yolanda Cuba, and I am the Vice President at MTN Group, looking after Southern and Eastern Africa. From today's interview, I actually don't know what to expect. I am excited about it. I'm looking forward to learning. I'm looking forward to sharing and really being engaged around my personal journey as well as Nyimpini's journey as well.
Such an honor. Such an honor. So good to see you. So Yolanda, we do our research very well all the time. We know something you like, and we've got a gift for you. Please bring it forward. Yes, because you've been here. You see?
Who told you?
I've got my spies. One of the things, like you said, is you talk about knowledge and competence, and I believe these are some your favorite, the orchids. The orchids.
Yes.
There we go. So there's so much more we'll tell you about this amazing lady who's here with me. But this is her favorite flowers. Okay, let's put it down here. The orchids. A little birdie tells me that when you were at Mvelapanda, one of your mentors, Tokyo Sikhwale, was not just about the business side of things, but he was very strict about power dressing. He changed your entire wardrobe. How does a man change a woman's wardrobe?
So
But it's the other way around. I don't want to be sexist, but
yeah,
hey.
no, look here. I mean, it was amazing. You know, I joined Mvela just post articles, right? And you know, like every good article clerk, right? We were told to dress properly, and then we went to Truworths and Foschini.
Yeah.
Right. So we all dressed kind of the same. I mean, let's be fair. We all needed to get an account at Truworths or Foschini, you know, to dress up. So Tokyo looks at me the one day and he says, you know, Yolanda, this thing is not going to work. Yes, you know, here, not here, you know. And then he decides, he says, okay, I'm going to phone my personal tailor and I'm going to get him to make you suits, right? And that's what he did. He phoned his tailor. The tailor was there at the afternoon.
Yeah.
He measured me up and my first 3 pinstripe suits, like proper, were tailored. And one of obviously was a skirt. So he didn't dictate. And the other thing he was very particular on those days, right, is the colors that you wear. I was like, Yolanda, these colors are called the kaleidoscope. This is a rainbow thing. Yeah, no, you know, it's not going to work. So it's going to be black. It's going to be navy. It's going to be gray. So for many years, those are the only colors I wore.
Wow.
I guess I was comfortable with them because, you know, accountants are supposedly gray, right? But yeah, so I actually for many years wore only those colors. And then if I actually ventured out, I'd be wearing like a pink shirt with my navy kind of suit or something like that. But yeah, those were the colors.
You know, I spent a bit of time with Boston Consulting Group. And my dear partner was with another consulting firm. The consultants and the banks, they're big on presentation and visibility. And I think the story you're telling about Tokyo is also about showing up.
Yes.
How important is that? And what have you learned from there?
Absolutely crucial, right? One of the things that people actually take for granted is the first thing that people actually receive about you is what they see. It's not what they hear, it's not what anything else, it's what they see. So in how you present yourself, you are communicating to the world. And people forget that. You know, they only actually start greeting people once they walk into a room, for example, right? I notice if someone actually, as they come, they're actually stretching out their hand or not. And because that actually says to me, this person is open to me coming into their space. So how that actually kind of works itself out in terms of how you show up is super important.
It's interesting.
Visibility.
And it's beyond that, right? Because I've got a chapter in my book that talks to the importance of physical and mental wellness. But the physical part, I talk about, there's nothing that is off-turning as someone who falls asleep in a meeting. So just the energy management, being present in the meeting, even just how you sit.
Yes, I love that. You know, there is a book that I read, just as I became CEO, those early days. In fact, not CEO, not deputy CEO, right? Those early days. And the book is Convince Them in 90 Seconds. And one of the things that they actually talk about in the book is like, they say, because it's a very practical book, it says, walk into the office, close your eyes, imagine yourself walking into the office, right? And now pretend like you're a hippo as you walk into the office, right? You're heavy, you're like, you know, you're hardly actually saying hi to anyone. And then they say, okay, let's leave that. Now, think about yourself as a kangaroo, right? Automatically, your energy changes. A kangaroo will go and kind of chop and change and greet everyone and so on. And they say that's what introduces you.
Wow.
You choose which energy introduces you. So when you come, I see you, but your energy is what I receive.
Sure.
So if you are not showing up with the right energy, we write you off. That's it.
And I guess, Yolanda, these are the kind of things that, you talk about it in the book, but I went to a business school, a couple of them actually. I don't remember a course on that.
No, there isn't.
I know a course on strategy and financial management.
Absolutely.
So are these some of the untrained or unsaid things in formal settings that perhaps you get from a mentor? Because I know you're very passionate about mentoring, and as you respond to that, tell us about the inspiration behind the Mentorship Boardroom.
So firstly, I mean, no one makes it in this world alone, right? I am because of you. We are because of others, right?
Yeah.
Ubuntu, right? That's where we come from. So, and there's no one who is self-made. I hear people saying, I'm self-made.
How does that work?
How does that work, right? It doesn't
Yeah.
work, right? There are people around you that are helping you succeed. It's your support system, it's the people that believe in you, it's the people that challenge you, it's the people that make you actually go further. And for me, that's important because those are the people that make all the difference in terms of where your destiny actually ends up being, right? So when I think about also kind of how did I get into the mentorship boardroom, strange enough, it was one of those things where I started mentoring at an early kind of age, almost as soon as I became a CEO, I was already mentoring people because I just thought it was important. You know, when you are in a position of privilege, like I deem I am in, right? There is a responsibility, not an obligation, but there is a responsibility to say, how do I make sure that I take that ladder, and I let others actually climb, you know? So for me, that's what the mentorship boardroom is about. It's also about making sure that people don't have to go through the same learnings that you did.
Went through,
You know, if you want a career in this or you want to actually end up here or there, don't go round. That's what happened to us. Let's actually find a way of actually drawing that line more straighter for the next generation. Because if we actually do that, we are at each time producing better level of leaders. You know, I often say to people, I'm not in the business of actually creating followers. I'm actually in the business of creating leaders.
Wow.
So, and for me, that's important because the mentorship boardroom is about creating leaders through actually exposing people to people that they would have never met.
Wow.
Right? You've been on the mentorship boardroom kind of platform. You've actually gone even on the Beat the Odds, which is around actually getting unemployed graduates kind of more chances to actually be employed. And for me, that kind of paying it forward and taking that privileged position to say, actually me as Yolanda, because I'm a CEO, because I'm here, I know a lot of people.
Yeah.
How do I make sure that I democratize that access?
Indeed.
Yeah, right?
Indeed. Yeah.
My purpose in my life, my partner's purpose in his life, we are like, I don't know how did we get aligned, but we did, right? But it's to do a simple thing. Is democratize access, right? And opportunity for every African child, as far as we can go, and increase transcendence.
Interesting, because that was the motivation behind writing the book. Because I said, I'm limited to the number of people I can reach in terms of direct one-to-one mentorship, but the book is one-to-many. And let me share what I know through those platforms.
And we're glad you wrote your book.
Oh, yeah. No, thank you. Thank you so much.
Get a dedicated relationship banker, preferential rates, 100% home loans, travel and lifestyle perks, and access to wealth solutions. Get the complete private banking experience. Digital when you want it, human when you need it.
And one of the challenges, though, is that CEOs and C-suite executives are very busy people. I mean, the diary is impossible. And you've got family, friends, and your personal life. Now, you sit on, if I'm not mistaken, the VW board and the Nelson Mandela board. You have a huge portfolio at MTN. You're a parent. And you have the mentorship boardroom. And this is what I know. Oh, actually, there's more I know. You do ballroom dancing.
Oh, of course, yeah.
And apparently, you are a wannabe interior designer.
Yeah, of course,
that's why you've already touched things here.
Who has been letting out my secrets? Who has been letting out my secrets?
You're one person. And the day is not longer for you than for us, right? You still get 24 hours like the rest of us. Or do you get more?
No, I don't. God only gives us 24.
And many people sitting here said, I can't cope with these 3-4 things I'm doing.
Yes.
How do you become expandable, so to speak? Do you have a digital twin, perhaps?
Maybe
because you are working in the AI space.
Maybe I do, right? You know, guys, behind every successful person, there is an army of incredible, strong people standing behind them. And I believe that so much that I actually have an army behind me,
Yeah.
right? I have people that help me with the Mentorship Boardroom. I have people that help me at MTN. I have people that help me with my private stuff that I do. So I've got an army of resources that actually are supporting and actually kind of looking at the vision that I have, and they actually say, I choose to align myself with this vision,
Fantastic.
right? And so for me, I feel privileged that I'm able to do that, to actually be able to tap into people that are actually saying, we want to help you succeed. When you see me, don't see me, see my village that actually is behind me.
And I think the power in that for our viewers and the audience here is that when you do more and you let yourself out there, you attract so many people who want to help you and support you.
Absolutely.
I saw that with Take Charge. And people say, how come Take Charge is all over the place? And I'm like, I've got over 15 people working on Take Charge. And most of them are volunteers. They just like, we've got this skill, can we help you? I create websites, can I do this? So when you help others, you attract help to yourself and you build that capacity.
Absolutely.
But the second thing is, Yolanda, it's hard for many people I've experienced to delegate. Even as we become senior in our roles, we still want to do everything because we grew through our expertise. How did you learn to let go and empower others? And even when you sometimes disagree with them, but you let them be.
So what I was fortunate to do is go on these executive programs back, I think I was around 31 or so. One of the ones I went to was INSEAD at the time, right? And I got a coach there. And one of the things that the coach said to me, and I was explaining that, no, I have to do this. I have to have my hands in everything. And the coach said, Yolanda, I need you to be lazy. And I'm like, what do you mean you need me to be lazy? He's like, just slow down. Be lazy. You will become a more effective leader that way. Because as leaders as well, forget that how you kind of grow up in an organization or through your competence to be in leadership. As leaders, we actually tend to think that we have to have the answers to everything. Right? And that pressure that we put on ourselves is what actually ends up making us not sleep at night every night. Right? We work till 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. At night, right? And for me, what I actually chose to do after that is to say, when I travel, I don't travel with my laptop. I only travel with an iPad. An iPad you can review. And when you create a document in iPad, it's not as kind of involved, if I can call it that, as a one when you are busy kind of hitting your keypad and whatever not. And the other thing that I had to learn to do is to actually say, when I don't have because what was the problem with my laptop is that I would go into Excel and look at the formulas that people and do all that and then argue with people and and all this kind of stuff. And then it actually relieved me of all that. And imagine now being relieved of all that kind of trauma that you've caused yourself to basically now having to actually look at things kind of differently with a new eye. So now with a new eye, I actually look at the people that I'm trying to build. As I say, I'm trying to build leaders. And I actually there's that situational leadership kind of diagram that actually kind of tells you if someone is kind of low competence, high attitude and whatever, what you should do. I took that thing as a Bible because as you said, I was a young leader, right? So I took that thing as a Bible. And I would actually map out my teams. In which quadrant do they fall? So if you are high competence, high attitude, high everything, I'm like, I just delegate. Right? And I'm like, okay, I have to trust that this is going to work, right? And then the second thing is, if someone is kind of low competence and high attitude, then you coach, right? That's the person to coach to actually. So when you actually look at that, it helped me to be able to deal with different people. The other advantage that I have that most people have never had, as you said, again, as a young leader. When I walked into my first boardroom at ABSA, I was like 27 or whatever, 27 years old, and everyone didn't look like me, and everyone was at least 30 years your senior, right?
Wow.
20, 30 years your senior, right?
Oh,
And they had
double your
lived
age.
through many kind of crises. So one of the things that you had to accept on day one is that you can't outcompete them on experience. You can't outcompete them on age. You can't outcompete them. So like I had to accept that on day one.
Yeah.
And accepting that meant something amazing for me. Now that I look back, it meant that I was actually a seeker of knowledge from them. I was a seeker of opportunity. And they allowed me the grace, right, to be able to make mistakes. So, and once I realized that I could get away with more, I actually was more daring. And that's where the source of my courage then started coming from.
And there's something there, Yolanda, about one, being self-aware, and two, being proactive.
Yeah.
Take the initiative. Actually, the reason why I say take charge is that things aren't just going to happen. You need to. But I think the third thing is in rooms where perhaps you're not the most experienced, you also seek in yourself to say, what am I bringing to this room?
Yeah.
I may not have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but there's a reason why I'm in this room.
Yeah.
And therefore, what is my value add?
Absolutely. So when I got to ABSA, right, in those days, guys, 2006 and 2005, you used to get arch lever files, right, for your board meeting, right? And then you had to page through that, right?
Yeah.
Jonga, I used to page through that page by page diligently, right? Because I said, I can't outcompete anyone on all these things, right?
But
on age, on whatever. Mara lagu competence, I'm corner. Because I realized I couldn't control any of these other variables, but the level of my competence I could.
Sure.
And that's what I focused on, such that actually, people don't realize this. Once you actually show a level of competence in a certain area, you stop chasing people. People naturally gravitate towards you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
they actually start seeking you and asking you questions. Hey, Yolanda, what do you think about this? And so on and so on.
Wow.
But how I went through those board pack, it was like I was studying for my exams. I knew every page, every this. And when I would make a comment, I would say, on page 23 and page 125 and page 496, you mentioned this, this, and that. But this is so inconsistent for me and whatever. So that's what I used to do.
I can attest to that. I once had the pleasure of being on the board of Vodacom South Africa as an executive, and she was a board member.
Yeah,
what a hard time we got. And, sometimes we wish that she would have connectivity issues from Ghana. Because she was always joining the board meetings remotely and asked all the tough questions. So, Yolanda, actually, you reminded me of a song when we were talking about Be Lazy. There's a song by Bruno Mars that says, tonight I don't feel like doing anything. I don't want to do anything. And talking about songs, we believe that one of your favorite artists is Anita Baker.
Hey, Nkosi.
And actually, there's a song there that I also like, and it talks about not needing to worry and things being better in the morning,
Yes.
And it feels like, it's like you don't have to worry about anything. Things will be better. It will be better in the morning.
Yeah. 100%.
Is that some insights into your approach to problem solving? Or maybe dealing with stress?
No, actually today, my sister was actually saying that to me. You are so calm. You've just lost this. You've just done this. Last year, it's not a story I talk about. My house burned.
Oh no.
Right? We just moved back literally like 3 weeks ago.
Damn.
And,
sorry to hear that.
Thank you. And,
by the way, can I offer you some water?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, no, continue.
And everyone was like, Yolanda, but this, and And I was calm. And I said, guys, I received a miracle. And they said, but how could you have received a miracle? I said, my family, my children got out alive. My sister got out alive in that house. That house burned. Like when I say burned, I mean an inferno, right? That's like, It was, And so for me, I look at the positive of life. I look at the silver lining in the story because I fundamentally believe that my belief system, my God, ever I believe in, actually is not here to harm me. right? He's here to expand me.
So that spirituality is so important.
That for me is important because and when I tell people, when I count my blessings, they are here. When I count my misfortune, they are here. And people are like always complaining about this thing that is like happening, but they forget that your blessings are here. And so for me, that sense of proportionality actually helps me. The sense of containment. You know, I always tell people, you know, when there are issues, you know, even when there's a problem with something maybe at work, is how do we containerize this problem? Where is the source of this problem? It's not here everywhere, where people like create noise and whatever. But it's very small. How do we actually only deal with just this instead of making the problem kind of bigger? You know, and that sense of proportionality helps you deal better with issues, help you sleep easier at night as well.
The interesting thing is that because we have aspiring leaders here and already leaders in your own right, very successful people, and those who are watching this, just about every corporate training I've been to, and you talk about even INSEAD, UCT, whatever, you go to these schools, problem solving is at the heart of all what we get trained as executives. And yet many of us, when facing problems, we still panic.
100%.
And so what is your coaching to the upcoming leaders? Because if you, I mean, senior leaders solve problems. They deal with issues. You know what I mean? And it's a skill to master if you want to grow in your career. What else can you tell these leaders?
There are two skills that you have to master in any environment, right? As a human being, right? The first one is financial, right? Guys, you know, everyone must have basic financial training. And what financial training? I know people are like, why must I have financial training? Financial training gives you the ability to have freedom of thought. The more financially independent you are, the more liberated your mind becomes. You conform less. You agree to things that are not aligned to your values far less. You voice up your voice, right? And because you are not scared of losing your job tomorrow, right? People that are not scared of losing their job, they're able to tell you the truth. They don't try and kind of accept things as they are and don't. So for me, I'm saying that. And why is that important? Is because it also gives you, as I said, firstly, courage, right? And courage is not kind of the bravado courage kind of that we're talking about. Is actually living your inner belief. I've got this thing, not what I believe people are inherently good. So if your inner belief is inherently good, right, then that's what we're going to receive as humanity from you, right? So that for me is important. The second thing is it actually becomes your guiding principle, your guiding kind of compass. You know, one of the things that we suffer from a lot in business is unethical behavior, right? Especially in leadership, right? I mean, I was at some point on the board of Steinhoff, right? And I left. Thank God I left on time, right? But, but for me, that is also important because then it allows you to say, you know, I'm able to pull away and actually live what I believe in and how I want, based on my principles, based on my own character as well. And then the second thing, as a kind of broad kind of category that I think people should have as a capability, is exactly what you say: problem solving, right? Guys, our entire life is problem solving, whether it's with your children, whether it is at work, whether it is at church, whether it is problem solving. And when I say problem solving, one of the key kind of capabilities in problem solving, obviously, is analysis. We get taught that a lot at school. But the other one that we actually focus less on when they are teaching it is a skill called negotiation, right? It's negotiation. People that are able to negotiate actually get better outcomes.
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't matter what happens, whether it's with the children,
Yeah.
whether it's with the work,
Yeah.
it is with whatever. They just
Negotiation.
because I mean, you go
Yeah.
into a room,
Yeah.
you know what your BATNA is.
Yes.
You know, there are people that go into serious negotiation not knowing what
And they don't even know
what
the
is their
stance.
best, best next available kind of action for them, right? They just are going. No, this is what I want, and that's it. What is your walk-away position? What is your reserve position? What is this? And if you're not doing these things,
She's done a lot of M&A,
Right.
yeah?
right?
Walk away positions.
Yeah, but that's how I was
Deal
listening
maker. But I guess on that, maybe, and maybe it's implied in what you said, I would say the third one that's also important in problem solving is your emotional maturity or emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
You know, because there's the what, but also the how. And you talked earlier about it, about being calm and just being able to manage the situation, because it can get quite heated, even the negotiation.
Yes, absolutely. Like I've walked away from negotiations, right? I've slammed my book, said a foul word, which I'm not proud of. I mean, you know, and then walked away, right?
Yeah.
And said, I'm not going to be part of this anymore, right? And so life is about that. Life is about being able, you know, when I said, you know, it's about reading the situation.
Yeah.
Let me give you an example of something that I did early on in my career.
Yeah.
Right? So I get told that you're a CEO and so on. And I've got 13 CEOs of different companies, varying sizes, actually reporting to me, right? And some of them are security companies, some of the security companies, you know, like Protea Coin. I actually merged those two companies together. They reported to me. And, you know, and so I go into this environment. Firstly, I'm told, good to you, like, you can also see that there's the blue-eyed ones, there are the grovellers, and then there are the ones that in jail don't get the time of the day. Like you have in any normal
environment, diversity.
Right?
That's what diversity is.
Like, you know, there are whatevers, right? We are not all born equal when it comes to this in our environments. And one of the things, I looked at this, right? And I'm, as I say, 29 years old, you're looking at this and you say, how do I make everyone feel valued, right? And this is around problem analysis. So I looked at the problem, analyzed it, and said, okay, how do I make? Then the situation, and you know, I did the most ludicrous thing that today, none of my shareholders, including Ellen Gray and Coronation at the time, would actually ever agree to, you know, if they actually knew at the time. I actually went to Charles Gregg, right, in Hyde Park, and I bought Rolexes.
Whoa.
For all of them, they were exactly the same.
Wow.
To communicate a message to them, to all my CEOs at the time, that I value you. I see you, right? And remember, these people were more experienced than me. They are kind of seasoned executives, right? And that for me, that action of buying those Rolexes, right? At that time, by the way, it cost me around 280,000 rand, right, to actually buy all of them, believe it or not. But for me,
you're a great negotiator. You got some discount.
No, I did.
You got a discount.
I did. But for me, remember it was back in 2007, right? It was not in whatever.
But still, I trust you got a discount.
So for me, you know, that whole thing actually kind of landed early on in my career, that valuing people is one of the most important things, right? That at any given time, it is not the business that you're dealing with people.
It's the people.
Right? And in doing so, I was able then to actually kind of even improve my own emotional intelligence, because I was able to actually acknowledge people. When I go to the restaurant today, I actually ask the waiter, what's your name? My partner asks the person. He goes long, right? Me, I keep it short, right? So that's kind of the issues there.
And actually, even today, I mean, literature suggests that recognition is still one of those underutilized management tools. We're very quick to think about LTAs and STIs, and a person just want to get in the moment. Well done. Yes, a small token of appreciation.
Absolutely.
All right.
All the time.
You brought the subject on restaurants, and it feels like you I mean, you talked about financial acumen, and therefore you're a long-range planner. But one of the things that really surprised me and impressed me listening to your story is the story of, I must get this right, Ayola. Or Ayoli.
Amayoli.
Amayoli. Your car.
Yes,
your
my
first
car.
car.
My first car.
Your
Amayoli.
first car.
My
now,
sister's
ladies
name
and gentlemen,
is
I must
Amanda.
tell you about this car. So, Yolanda and her sister, while at varsity, decide that they're going to get some side, what do they call it these days, young people? Side hustle.
Yeah.
Eh? They work as in restaurants and as waiters together. And they decide to have a goal to save enough money to buy a car through tips and income as waiters. And they got that. I mean, a varsity career is like 4 years. They managed to buy that car and they named her
Amayoli.
Amayoli. You know. I mean, that's incredible discipline.
How do you know about Amayoli?
Did you learn these things about incredible discipline from early age? Because I mean, that is some serious discipline, and I think it's applicable in a work environment as well.
Yeah, I would say yes, because we grew up in a very kind of intentional family. You know, my mother was intentional. I mean, she was a lawyer in the early 80s. She opened a practice in Kempton Park here.
Wow.
Right? So very intentional, kind of, if someone says it's impossible, it kind of, you say, watch me do it, right? Impossible for you? Mara, watch me.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that kind of watch me attitude actually has gotten us through. And also, I also was lucky to be amongst the people that were big thinkers, right? That actually thought beyond their circumstance. That actually said, I will not be a victim of my circumstance, right? My ability to think is my limitation. That's my constraint in life. And they actually opened up a world where kind of knowledge was important. Kind of going to school and education was important and all those kind of stuff. And that opens up another world for you. You know, I mean, if we think about it, if when you were young, you were sitting there. I mean, by the way, this is important for me to actually tell you. When I was young, right, people will ask me, when I was young, I mean like 4 or 5, people will ask me, what do you want to become when you're older?
Yeah.
You know what did I say?
I know.
Yo, okay. That's exactly what I used to say. I
said, done our research, you know.
I wanted to be a white person, right?
You know, when I read that story, I wondered how much ambi did she buy? you know, the skin lightening cream.
No, I never bought it. I like my melanin color.
So it was not literal.
So when you are 4 or 5 years old, right? Remember, this is the early 80s. The only time you see white people is on TV. Those who are my age and older, please, guys, we'll deal with you now. Now the older people, right? The older people, right?
Yeah.
You know, there were those Peter Stuyvesant ads.
Yeah.
The yacht,
Yo.
the aeroplane, you know, people skiing and living in these large houses
after
and
action
this
satisfaction.
After action satisfaction, you know.
Hey, now we're showing our age.
So for me, right, I looked at that on TV, right, and it was white people that had that, right? That had that life. Because the black people, they were not having that life. They didn't even kiss on TV.
And therefore you wanted to be.
So I, as a child, I actually thought in order for you to have that, you actually had to be white.
Yeah.
So it was my interpretation, now post-rationalizing, of course, right?
Yeah.
I set for myself a very high bar at a very young age that said, the life that I want is the life of freedom that I was seeing there. The life of adventure, the life of actually attainment, the life of being able to actually wake up in the morning, get onto an aeroplane or get into a private charter or whatever to get to wherever I want to be able to go to. And for me, I think, you know, people ask me, did you know what you wanted to become? I'm like, of course not.
Yeah.
You know, except if I was writing an autobiography.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, but I knew exactly what I wanted
But today we got the truth here, right?
If I write an autobiography, I tell you exactly. But, you know, when I was 5, I knew exactly what I wanted. But, guys, I don't know. What I knew was the kind of life that I actually wanted to live. And to get that life, as I grew up, I realized that you actually had to get education, competence, courage, character, consistency, effort, work. And that's what I actually then took and I actually imbibed in me in order to actually say, I want to drive. At every turn, when there was an opportunity, I put up my hand and I said, available.
Yeah.
Is it paid? No. Is it not paid? No. So even when this thing happens of Amanda and I, my twin sister and I, saying, we want to buy a car, right? We actually had discussed it before, and then an opportunity came that, "Hi, Masere Mali, we can do this."
Yeah.
Understand? And really, we did it. And for me, and that was in our second year of varsity.
Not even 4 years.
Yeah. I just spent 3 years at varsity for my junior degree. So I literally, we were focused on it, and we were willing. This is what people don't understand. At that stage, you have to be willing to sacrifice something.
Yeah.
You have to give up something. I'm one of those people who didn't go to a Michael Jackson concert.
Yeah.
That I still regret today. My mom used to say, you'll be able to do it later and whatever. No, the later never came because the Michael Jackson concert died. And then, I never watched it. One of my other favorite singers, Luther Vandross, never got to see him, right? But he was here, right? But I was writing exams during that time, right? So for me,
choices.
it's about choices.
And something has to go into
absolutely,
give.
absolutely.
Nedbank private clients get rewarded with greenbacks. Get up to 30% off on flights with Greenbacks Travel on Avo and up to 2% unlimited cashback on all Nedbank Amex card purchases, plus even more rewards on Fridays. Join Nedbank private clients today. See money differently. Nedbank.
I want to talk about this concept of lifelong learning.
Yeah.
Because what amazes me is that, people are like, Yolanda has got it together. Look at her. And some of the things you post on social media talks about your curiosity.
Yeah.
And just this week, I think I saw a post from you sharing something that you got from your mother.
Mom. Yes.
I was like, how special is that? I don't know how old she is, but she's still active on social media. My mom can hardly send a WhatsApp.
Yeah, mom
but parents, I think they play that foundational role in molding us.
Yeah.
And talk to us a little bit about your, some of the things that you use today in your leadership that you learned from your mother.
Yeah. So one of the big things that, as I said right at the beginning, I was talking about the story of her actually starting a practice in 1984, right, in Kempton Park. Remember, this was very white areas, very kind of uncharted waters, right? Gave me the permission to say I can do anything.
Yeah.
Right? And, lesson from my mom, she actually said, when I was choosing which auditing firm to go to, she says to me, Yolanda, I went to Melanix. Melanix was one of the biggest law firms in Cape Town. In fact, in South Africa, the whole of South Africa at the time. And she said she went there, right, to do her articles. And then when she started her practice, she had to learn everything from scratch. Right? She realized that although they were the biggest kind of law firm, because of the nature of the risk of what they were doing, you were actually given a slither of work to do. So you were not actually exposed to a breadth of stuff.
Yeah.
And I guess unexpectedly in a way, or expectedly in a way, that they are not going to give you the greatest risk stuff just to kind of a young black girl. And when she said that, she was saying, I cannot tell you what to choose or how to choose, right? But I can tell you my experience. And that's my mom. She's always telling you about her experience. So when I was choosing that my audit firm, I decided deliberately, Deloitte actually accepted me first, right? And I decided to go to a medium-sized law firm, which was Fisher Hoffman.
Yeah.
And at Fisher Hoffman, I could do a
You
book
got a
job.
lot more.
So where they bring a thing, a briefcase job where they bring you slips and receipts and you have to construct all books of accounts.
And you wouldn't get that experience in a big...
And then create the financials, do the tax computation.
Wow.
So you did all that. And then they were also, because they specialize in kind of medium-sized companies, and very few listed kind of companies. what then ended up happening is that when those guys wanted to do M&A, those companies, they came to the
Imagine the kind of experience and exposure.
I was part of some of those conversations.
Yeah.
So when I started at Mvela, right, I was already able to do corporate finance. I was doing deals already. And by the way, that's the reason I got the promotion so quickly when I was at Mvela, because I became deputy CEO pretty quickly in my first year of work there.
Because you had the content, you could do the work.
I had the content of doing the work, right? And also, obviously, there are other reasons, but that was one of the major reasons, because people were expecting me to perform here in line with just, this is someone who's just come out of articles. And at the end of the day, I was performing here, and everyone was mesmerized by my output.
Mesmerized is the effect that we want. Ladies and gentlemen, we come into your side. Please, can I see some hands? Show hand and introduce yourself. Let's keep the questions to 30 seconds, please.
Thank you so much for such an insightful conversation. I think it's absolutely inspiring. One of the things that just keeps playing in my mind is just the idea of sponsorship, which is absolutely critical, especially when you get to a certain level of your career through your expertise and your competence and all of that. At some point, that ceiling starts to really appear because you don't necessarily have those sponsors. And everybody talks about the sponsors, but how do you actually, in essence, get those relationships to become your sponsors when you're actually not there? You know, does it mean that you're building relationships in a completely different way? Is it an emotional intelligence thing? Or is it just luck? Like, thank you.
Maybe we take one more, and then we can answer two.
No, thank you very much, Yolanda. As I was sitting here, I was just praying that I hope my prayer and your aspirations coincide. I hope you become president one day.
Hey. Step aside, Kamal.
So the question is, would you do such a thing? And why is it that the best of society don't get involved in the affairs of government, politics, and stuff like that? Thank you.
Over to you.
You did say that they mustn't hold back, ne?
Yeah.
So let's start with the sponsorship question, right? What you choose in life, in your own life, is mentors, right? Sponsors tend to choose you. So what happens with sponsorship is that people see you on your path already. So that's the importance of how you show up. What's your track record and what you do. Sponsors come to you because of what they see in you. And then they actually say, how do I become part of your story and accelerate you? That's how I've gotten sponsors in the past. I've had sponsors like Joe Marcus, people like Tokyo as mentioned, and so on, right? I've had many sponsors, let me be honest. But they all actually find me on a journey, right? Right? So no one is gonna do.
Yeah.
So you have to actually be on that path for your sponsors to actually find you. It doesn't mean that you have to kind of just sit and wait, right? You can still approach people, but they start with a mentorship relationship. It really starts as, I'm gonna sponsor you, because people have to know you, trust you, and actually know that they can attach their equity and their names to you. Are you making sure that people are actually finding you trustworthy of that? Because, you know, if I think about Tokyo and his time, there was a time Tokyo borrowed me his equity. When I was a nobody, no one knew my name. Tokyo would say to me, he would be doing an interview on TV and say, Yolanda, stand on my left shoulder, just behind my left shoulder. Because what was he doing? He was associating me with him, borrowing me his equity. So now imagine if now I let that down.
Yeah.
Right? And that's the importance of it. So that's what sponsors tend to do. They lend their name, their credibility, and their network towards what your objectives are. On the presidency, I am Chanam Angaz. You know, life is long.
Yeah.
So the only answer I will say, I don't know. However, one thing I can say is, what is it I want for our people in South Africa and in the rest of the continent? I think South Africa is playing small. right? We've got so much to give.
Yeah.
We've got so much that we can deliver on. And today we are not doing that. Today we are playing to kind of at a level. In fact, the other day I was talking about BEE and how BEE and empowerment and all these things have actually reduced us to a level of thinking where we actually are going to become a nation of dwarfs, right? Because if we were somewhere else and we're not limited or actually being cajoled into a system like kind of, I'll use BEE for example in this case, that says, I will empower you. You know, they will empower you. It only means one thing. It means I can only raise you to the level I can tolerate you, right? I must be above you for me to empower you. That's what it means. It means I'll never see you as my competition, right? And these are important kind of things to have in mind. And that's what I want us as a country, as a nation, to break out of.
The elections should be end of this year. I want to vote for her.
People that you make reference to that have mentored you, these are quite, quite experienced people, quite leaders who are up there. Can you just maybe talk me through the process of, we obviously deal with a lot of, entry-level leaders, previous managers. How does one identify a leader? Because these were previous managers. How does one know that this is a good mentor for me? This is a leader instead of a manager. Just take me through that. Thank you.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, let's start with this question. How do I pick my mentors, right? Very simple, right? I look for people I admire. That's it. It doesn't have to be an industry. It doesn't have to be anything. It is people I admire. I might admire them from a perspective of work. I might admire them in the perspective of just social life. But there must be something that binds me to who you are and how you show up, such that I want to take a piece of you and learn from. And actually that part becomes part of me, right? So that's how I identify the people. And so yes, I'm a big thinker, right? As I said, right at the beginning, I was a big thinker. So if I'm gonna approach anyone to be my mentor, right? Yeah, no, they're gonna be big, right? That's how we're gonna do it, right? And then what was the second part of your question? You asked about the mentorship and
I was asking about managers who go into leadership positions.
Yeah, how do we identify those people as
how do you
people
spot talent?
How do I
leaders?
spot talent? Firstly, is I take competence first as a tick box that you've with everyone. Then it's attitude. That's it. That's attitude, right? There are people that are problem identifiers. There are people that are problem solvers, right? Which one do you want to be? Who do you want to work for you? Remember, what I always remind people as well is when I employ someone, right? I know we don't say this as leaders, né? I actually only employ people that are going to make me look good. Yes, guys?
And that's your job.
Like people actually forget this basic part, right? You employ people that are going to make you look good. So when you are actually identifying people that you're going to actually have in your team, you must actually realize which part of the team scope or what's its position are they going to play? And are they going to be the best number 9? Are they going to be the best number 1 as a goalkeeper? Are they going to be the best this? And that's what we're doing all the time, is actually getting those people. And that's how you identify leaders. Attitude is what actually differentiates really great people and the ones that actually absolutely outshine everything. Now, I like people that actually want to outshine. So people in my teams tend to actually have this kind of alpha attitude, can-do attitude. Is it, no, we'll get it done. Well, that's what I like.
But maybe, well on that, before you answer that question, I think some leaders confuse that to be in conflict. Because if you have those alpha individuals who are so good, and I always say, I look for people who are better than me. Because when they do their work, I shine.
Yes.
Right?
That's exactly.
But some leaders think that when they're better than you and they do their work very well, then they might outshine you. And then people say, okay, let's promote this one and take the job. So they get threatened by their own teams.
Yeah. No, I mean, leaders that get threatened by their own teams have lots to deal with. Right?
Yeah.
In fact, what I've actually experienced a lot of is actually the teams actually coming to me for coaching and mentorship. And they're saying, my boss is actually scared that I'm going to outshine him or her, and he's closing me off, he's doing this. And 9 out of 10 times I tell them that's not true.
Yes.
Because when I go into an exco meeting and my team scoreboard is all green, hi guys, it's me that shines.
Yes.
They don't ask who in your team did that. So the people that are coming up, that report to leaders, and they're saying all these things, I tell them 9 out of 10, you are wrong. You are drinking your own Kool-Aid, right? So leave it alone.
Hi Nyimpini, thank you very much for the invitation, and hi Yolanda, thank you very much for the insightful session. I'm Kumo, the founder of EduReach 360, so we're an education technology company, and we're quite intentional about building this education technology company towards the JSE and expanding our footprint across the African continent. So God willingly, we make it there in the next 10 years. And coincidentally, what that will mean is that I'll be CEO of a listed company at 29 also. So I guess my question is, how do you do it young? How do you do it scared, unsure, and really just not knowing the things that you don't know yet?
Okay. Yeah. Firstly, you surround yourself with people that know, right? That's the biggest kind of thing that you're actually going to have to do, right? I was surrounded by lots of capable people, right? I was a deputy CEO. Like, remember, we're talking about me being a CEO at 29, right? I was a deputy CEO at 26, right? And I was kind of, on these big boards, right? And the only thing you can do is focus on your, I call it institutionalized curiosity. Being able to pivot, change your mind, right? Be flexible, be teachable, right? And that actually helped me as Yolanda to actually go to the next level. I read a lot, right? I didn't have other peers. When I went to my friends, they have never been CEO, they've never been executive at my age. Because the people that were my friends are people that were also my age mate.
Yeah,
right?
sure, of course.
So I couldn't go to them for advice. By the way, one of the things that is really, really weird, and you would have experienced this when you talk to your age mates, I love that you're so young, but you know, when you talk to your age mates, is that sometimes you feel if you talk about this issue, it feels like you're bragging. So you hold back, right? So now instead, you don't talk to anyone, right? So rather find those older people, that the people that have been there, that are not threatened by you, right? And ask them for help, ask them for insight, ask them for guidance. Because if you're doing that, then you will start walking in the right direction, the direction of your destiny of being a CEO at 29. I love it. You know, because for me, I mean, for everyone who is like you, who actually wants to leave a mark in this African continent, especially around education, because I just feel like education is such an important ingredient to unleashing the prosperity of our continent, right? I actually say Godspeed to you, right? May you go with grace wherever you go. Go with God. May He give you those wings to fly, because we need more people like you that are thinking like you, that are saying, I want to empower, I want to grow, I want to evolve what we are about. So that's how you get there. It's literally going for people that are more experienced than you, that know better than you. And you know what? Do what like I did. I went to the phone book, right? Think about who globally actually is the best at what you're doing, right? Or similar to what you're doing, and say, how do I get to them so that they can coach me, they can mentor me, so that tomorrow I can be just like them or even better than them.
And I think sometimes my experience talking about the phone book is that we like putting barriers for ourselves, where we think that certain people we need to talk to are not accessible because we perceive them not to be. Many people ask me, it's like, as a first-time writer, how do you get Dr. Ruel Khoza and Mteto Nyati to be featured on your cover of the book. How did you get to know them? And I said, actually, I didn't know them. When I wrote the book, I made a decision that I would love for Ruel to write the foreword. And I looked him up and I found him.
Yeah.
Didn't know him before. And the same with Mteto. You know, so this point of you ask, you get. But quite often we're even too afraid to ask.
Yeah. Yeah.
So be intentional, identify and ask the question. Recently, I got appointed a chairman of a board for a large organization, multinational. And I'm like, I don't know how to be chairman. I've never been chairman before. You know, and I was worried that I will interfere too much with the CEO because I like getting my hands dirty. And that's my experience. And then I reached out. There was there's a white old man who's retired. He's 81. He lives in Cape Town. He chaired 3 JSE listed companies. And I asked one of the people to say, I'd love to speak to this guy if he's around. And then the guy said, actually, he's a friend of my dad. And then they connected me. Yeah. The next thing, following week, I was in Cape Town. We had a 3-hour training, mentorship on how to be chairman. And then he continued to be my mentor as a chair. Because why? He's 81, he's retired, he's in Cape Town, he's got lots of time, and he wants to help. Yeah. But he can only access if you ask.
Yeah. And I guess the short answer to you is success is a decision, right? Success is a decision. You make a decision first on what outcome, like Nyimpini said, you want, and then you do, right? If you don't make that decision, if you are still kind of, maybe not, I will not, then it's not going to happen. Because it's about action. It's not about what we think or how we actually conceptualize stuff or how we dream things to be like. It's when we actually act that it actually makes a difference.
Please, ladies and gentlemen, join me in thanking Yolanda. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
And to our viewers and listeners, there you have it. I hope that out of this conversation, you managed to find lots and lots of insights and nuggets for your own career. Our intention is to help you accelerate your own journey by having conversations with these leaders coming to us. The conversation continues on social media. Follow up on all our hashtags, and remember to subscribe to the channel and like us. Thank you so much to our sponsors, Nedbank, who are our presenting sponsors in association with Avis Chauffeur Drive. Thank you for joining us on session 2 or episode 2 of our show. Until the next one, have a great time.